If you're already anxious thinking about gatherings, expectations, or obligations, this episode is for you. Today, we're talking about boundaries, the kind that protects both your heart and your money. Welcome to A Cup of Hope, the podcast for women ready to create clarity and confidence in their life and money. I'm your host, Sherry Lynn, a life and money coach and your hope-filled strategist. Each week, we'll talk about the messy middle of life, faith, finances, freedom, and finding your purpose, all with truth, encouragement, and practical tools that you can use today. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to A Cup of Hope. I'm so glad you're here. The holidays magnify everything. The joy, the warmth, the beauty, and also the stress, the family dynamics, and the expectations that sneak in and weigh us down. And for many women, this season carries a unique emotional and financial load. If that's you, you're not alone. Today, we're talking about boundaries. Not the rigid kind, but the kind that create peace, clarity, and emotional safety. The kind that help you walk through December with intention instead of pressure. And I want to start with a story that the Lord used to reveal a hidden expectation in my own heart, because this entire conversation begins right there. My family and I spent a week at the beach recently. 5 of my 6 kids were there, 7 of us, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1 level. And for us, that was a big deal. We haven't spent that many days together under one roof since my older 3 boys moved out. And truly, we had a great week. We laughed, played games, swam, walked the beach, watched beautiful sunrises and sunsets, did putt-putt, played pickleball. It was full and beautiful. There were a couple tiny squabbles, normal family moments. But here's what surprised me. My body wasn't reacting just to the moment. It was reacting to the past. Old nervous system patterns whispered, "Danger, danger." And suddenly, I felt discouraged, even though the week was overwhelmingly good. Then, on the drive home by myself, I felt sad and tired. I noticed myself focusing on the 2 imperfect moments instead of the hundreds of good ones. Because frustration is the distance between expectation and reality, and when you're worn down, frustration loves to magnify the tiny things. In that moment, exhaustion spoke louder than truth. And later, I said something I didn't mean. I'm not sure I want to do this again. But the next morning, in quiet time with Jesus, he showed me something deeper. I had an expectation running in the background that I didn't even know was there. I wasn't reacting to reality. I was reacting to an unspoken expectation of perfection. I had pictured an Eden-like week, seamless, peaceful, perfectly harmonious. And friends, that's not the world we live in. Yes, we were created for the garden, but we live between 2 gardens, in a world that is beautiful and broken, joyful and messy, with real human people and full of spiritual battles we didn't always see coming. And here's the irony. If everything were perfect, we would forget how much we truly need Jesus. Those tiny bumps weren't failures, but they were reminders. I need Jesus daily. My kids need grace, and our family is very human and growing. Imperfection isn't a threat. It's a teacher. It revealed a hidden expectation, an unrealistic longing, a quiet pressure I didn't realize I was carrying. And that leads to the foundation of this episode. Friend, here's where your story meets mine. Hidden expectations are spiritual vulnerabilities. They set us up for disappointment. They steal our peace. They distort our relationships. They distract us from the real battle. So let me ask you, what is one expectation the Holy Spirit is inviting you to release this week? Just one. Start there. Because you cannot guard your heart around an illusion. And like Dr. John Deloney often says, facts are your friends. Before you can guard your heart, you have to name what's real. Not what you hoped for, not what you imagined, not the Hallmark picture you quietly expected, but what is true in your life, your family, your finances, and your emotional capacity. Only then can Proverbs 4:23 take root in your heart. Above all else, guard your heart. That's Proverbs 4:23. Guarding your heart begins with choosing reality. And guarding your heart includes guarding your energy, your expectations, your money, your emotional and physical capacity, and the pace of your season. Everything flows from your heart. Protecting it is obedience, and it begins with truth. Now that we've laid the foundation, choosing reality, guarding your heart, and releasing expectations, let's make this really simple and really practical. 3 boundaries, 3 places to focus, 3 ways to bring more peace into your holiday season. First, emotional boundaries come before financial boundaries. What does that mean? You can't budget around someone else's reactions. You can't build peace around guilt. You can't steward money from a place of pressure. Emotional boundaries come first because they shape every other decision you make. Next, you don't owe anyone debt, exhaustion, overgiving, or pretending you're okay financially. A more simple Christmas isn't failure. It just might be wisdom and faithfulness. Finally, boundaries help you show up more fully. Boundaries create emotional margin, spiritual grounding, clarity in your decisions, space to breathe. They help you show up with presence, 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 the fully here kind of presence, instead of resentment, peace instead of pressure, grounding instead of guilt. Friends, it's time for today's Coach's Cue. What is one expectation the Holy Spirit is inviting you to release this week? Just one. Start there. As we grow deeper together this week, here are some practical, kind but clear words that you can practice. I'm not able to do that this year, but here's what I can do. Or, we're choosing a more simple Christmas this year. Or maybe, that doesn't work for me this year, but thank you for understanding. Or finally, we're working within a budget this season. I'd love to hear if any of these work for you or inspire words that you can use to set a kind but clear boundary this holiday season. Here's your one last sip. The boundary you set today creates the peace you feel tomorrow. Friend, if today's episode stirred something in your heart, maybe around expectations, emotional boundaries, or the weight of carrying everything alone, I want to invite you to take a next step. As we move through December, I'll be sharing more tools to help you walk in clarity and peace. At the end of the month, I'll tell you about 2 supportive opportunities coming in the new year for women who want healing, strength, and direction, both emotionally and financially. If you're curious or want to stay in the loop, you can learn more by clicking the link in the show notes. As we close today, remember, imperfection does not mean failure. It does mean you're human, and it means you need Jesus. Boundaries help you walk through this messy, beautiful, in-between life with peace, clarity, and grace. So for now, take a breath. Your boundaries matter. And I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and joining me today on A Cup of Hope. If this episode encouraged you, would you share it with a friend and subscribe so you never miss an episode? You'll find today's resources and next steps in the show notes. Until next time, I'm Sherry Lynn, and I want you to remember this. Hope is always available, and your next step matters, because God can take the broken pieces of your story and create something more beautiful than you could ever imagine.